Okay, so I'm here with Ifbb Pro Jason Arntz, and also owner of I Prevail Subs. And uh, everybody in the bodybuilding community by this point has heard about George Peterson. So we decided to come on and give our condolences and some heartfelt wishes and prayers and send them out to George, and then talk about what a great bodybuilder in person he was. So from what I understand, and I got my information from RX Muscle, his coach, Justin Miller, couldn't get in contact with him. And he went to his room. He wasn't answering, called security, got security to open his room, and they found him passed. He was face down. They found him passed. He's gone. And they called the paramedics. They tried to do CPR. He was already gone, so that didn't work, obviously. They said that he had some blood trickling from his nose. You know, it's too soon to speculate on actually what happened. It wasn't there was no autopsy yet. It's really too soon. But did you ever have the pleasure of meeting him?
I did not. I just know of him from being a great athlete and being one of the, rising stars in the 212 division. And I think he came from
Long Island.
From Classic Physique, and then
yes, yeah,
212. But yeah, he's from the Northeast. My area. And we have a lot of similar circles of friends. So I've never met him personally.
I've never met him personally either, but all I've heard was great things about the guy.
Same here. Yeah.
Never heard a bad thing. And he also never took part in social media trash talking with other competitors.
Right. He was a class act. Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely was a class act, and a great ambassador of the sport. So basically, I mean, this guy's career was stellar. I mean, not only was he a bodybuilder full time, he also had a full time job.
Right.
I think he worked for Cablevision in Long Island, and this guy he turned pro in Classic Physique in 2016 at Nationals, and then after that, every pro show he did, he never placed lower than third. So in 2017, he did the New York Pro Classic Physique, came in second. Did the Tampa Pro Classic Physique, he came in first. Did the Olympia Classic Physique, he came in third. 2018, he went right to the Olympia, came in third again. 2019, he did the Arnold Classic. He won the Arnold Classic. This is an Arnold Classic champion. He won it in the Classic Physique. And there was that famous thing where Arnold came on stage and asked him to do a vacuum, and he did the vacuum pose because Arnold loved how small his waist was and whatnot.
Yeah.
Then he went to the Olympia. The Classic Physique, came in third again. And in 2020 was when he jumped up to 212. He did Classic Physique once. He won the Tampa Pro first place. And then he went into the Olympia and did 212 and came in third.
Right. And
then he was ready to do the 212 Olympia again this year. From what I understand, he was just scratching the surface. He was only 37 years old.
Right.
And they would say there was rumors that he was going to jump up to open, because that's how, he had the structure. He had this height and the size. Right. So what did you think about his physique?
He was, everything was there. Can't argue with results, and his placings, speak for themselves. They speak volumes, and he's accomplished at a fast pace, more than most people could ever aspire to. It's
a travesty. It really is. It's tragic.
It's sad to say, but the future was, bright for him.
It really was. He was only 37, and this short from 2016 to 2020, it was a Hall of Fame career already. Right.
Right.
It was a Hall of Fame career already. So I took the pleasure of pulling up some of his picks so people who don't know could see how truly physically gifted he was. And he must have had one of the best backs in bodybuilding, period. I mean, that is just amazing.
Yeah.
Perfect V-taper, small waist, I mean, detailed, thick. I mean, that's class A bodybuilder right here. There is nothing. He was flawless. He truly was flawless. You know, I don't know. Some people are going to be saying that bodybuilding should do something about this, because this is the third biggest surprise death this year. So we had this year alone, we had three people from bodybuilding taking us way too early. Like it was, there was, I had mentioned her name before, Alina Hadvani. She was 46. There was John Meadows, obviously, but he was in his 50s. And now George the Bull Peterson at 37.
Well, it's been more than that. There was almost one a week. There's guys overseas and
oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
There's been probably at least a half a dozen.
Wow.
Three girls recently. All from supposed, diuretic use. Who knows? That's a speculation.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a rough year.
Yeah. The thing is, when people say, maybe the Ifbb should do something, or I mean, after Alina Hadvani came out, Jake Wood said that he was going to have some restrictions. But the truth is, you don't know really if there was underlying conditions.
That's the thing is, what can the Ifbb do?
Exactly. Yeah.
People are doing what they need to do. You could put in regulations, but there's something else going on. There's just something else going on, because this isn't, this just doesn't happen. Why hasn't this happened? Nobody's doing anything more or less
right
now than they have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, for some reason, this year, it's affecting people differently. Mm-hmm. And you could speculate, you could try to draw conclusions, and I have my own, which, but something's different this year than there has been in the past, and it's not because of what these guys are doing.
Yeah, I don't know, and I have no idea, and I won't speculate. I have no idea. There's no autopsy done. It's too early to say. But you're right. This is far too common, and it just seems like there's some kind of pattern. But even before this year, I mean, I know Luke Sandow, it was a different story, but that was tragic. And then, of course, we had Rich Piana, and then we had Dallas McCarver. But big names with a lot of talent seem to be, suffering from this. I don't know. Again, I don't know what it is, but I mean, all we could do is really wait until the autopsy and then go from there. As far as George the Bull. Now, you had mentioned that you think this is going to set off a chain reaction for the Olympia.
Well, I do. I do. I think that anybody, look, I've been there. I've competed in 4 Mr. Olympias, mm-hmm. and you don't feel great. And when you're in George, dude, I'm sure he didn't want to quit.
Right. Yes, he was.
I'm sure this guy was a fucking warrior.
That's right.
I'm sure we all are. Mm-hmm. To get there, you can't be anything less.
Right.
And nobody wants to quit. So you push and you push and you push. And, you're taking your body into extremes where it's not only is it not meant to be there, mm-hmm. but you're not meant to compete under these circumstances.
Yes.
Where you're dehydrated and your blood levels are out of balance, and you have all these other things going on, and add in a global pandemic where there could be other health issues now, which that was my point of speculation before, is what's going on this year that hasn't happened in the past. And if you add in a pandemic, which I'm sure most people have been in contact with.
That's a good point, sure.
This is something that could have long-term issues with people's health.
Yeah.
It is a thickening disease. It's a blood clotting disease. It causes issues with organs. Mm-hmm. And your organs might be more sensitive or susceptible to things than they haven't been in the past if you've contracted this virus. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
But if you look at the common denominator, that's why I was saying before, nobody's really doing anything different.
Right.
and we've all done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the one key factor that's different this year that wasn't there in the past?
Right.
So that's the only conclusion I can draw right now until there's something else that suggests something differently. That makes sense to me. But I guess we'll see when the autopsy report comes in.
Yeah. And you said that you had a friend.
In terms of a chain reaction,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a friend of mine's good buddy. He just pulled this girl out. She wasn't feeling good. She's competing in the women's physique. I don't want to mention names.
Right.
It'll be it'll come to light. But I think now anybody who starts to feel, any type of health-related issues, they're going to second guess their ability to, should I push it a little further? And like I said, it's tough, man, because we're athletes. We're fighters. We're warriors. We want to keep pushing.
Mm-hmm.
But might not be the best time to push these things.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I mean, you're definitely right. Well, it's just, as much as I love bodybuilding, it's, as far as sports go, it was my first love. I fell in love with it at 14 years old. You were one of my fucking heroes when I was a kid, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. If that is the case, it's just not worth it. Because I could only imagine the pain and suffering his family is going through right now. I mean, that's got to be,
Look, he was doing what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there was no other place he wanted to be except that Olympia stage, and I know how that is.
It's true.
I don't want to say it's not worth it, but right now, with everything going on, I think just people need to be a little more careful
mm-hmm.
with their health when making these decisions. And look, there's times you could go into a show and you could feel great.
Yeah.
And you could have no issues.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you do. And if that's a factor, that might be the time to, hey, hit the brakes a little bit.
Sure.
And I'm going to have to, not push so much and just let the chips fall. And I'm going to come in where I'm going to look however I look,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Instead of dehydrating a little more or restricting this a little further. To say, look, you could say, is football worth it? Is MMA worth it?
You're 100% right.
Yeah, I don't want to, say anything undermining to the sport of bodybuilding because
right.
I'm a bodybuilder at heart. So is it worth it? Dude, I my first Mr. Olympia. I don't know how I competed, but I made it to the stage. And in all fairness, I probably could have pulled out for health reasons, but I fought through it and I made it and ended up taking fourth. And I dealt with it afterwards,
right.
But that's what we do.
You're absolutely right. Once you have that mindset,
honest, I would do it again. If I was in that circumstance, I would do the same thing again. We just. So I know what you mean because all of our hearts are heavy. Yeah. So I get that argument. I do. But as an athlete, if you ask if it's worth it, I don't know if there's anybody out there that's at that Olympia stage right now that wouldn't say they'd still continue.
No, you're 100% right. Because the attitude and the mindset of an elite athlete, an elite competitor is all or nothing. Yeah. 100%. You're 100% right.
It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. I am actually going to be at the Olympia. I am going down. We're leaving Friday, and I'm going to be there until Tuesday. We're making it like a vacation. Me and the wife are going to be at the Olympia, and then we're going to go to like Universal and whatnot. And I'm wondering how this is going to affect the energy.
Well, I'll tell you the Olympia that I was just talking about, my first one, 2008. Mm-hmm. That was the year Steve Stone died backstage at the Olympia.
Wow.
So it did set a very, different tone.
Yeah.
For that, and Steve was a friend of mine, but again, he was doing what he loved to do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Was it way too early for him? Of course, he was young, but he was where he wanted to be. Just like I said, everybody there right now, I'm sure everybody still wants to be there, and they're going to continue to fight to be there. And this is horrible, but it'll definitely, it might just set a precautionary tone for people, maybe pump the brakes a little bit. But I don't think it'll change, an athlete's mind.
No, I don't think so either. And even if you do put in some restrictions, you're 100% right. They're probably going to find loopholes.
It's even with restrictions, there's so much that you could do.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to know, sometimes these athletes, in order to beat a test, you're going to take more harmful stuff to beat the test than the stuff itself. So I get it with the restriction. All they could really do is, hey, you know what? We're not worried if your skin is totally onion thin. We're going to judge you on symmetry, balance, proportion, size. Mm-hmm. If you're a little off, we're not going to crush you for it. That could be the only thing.
Right.
For guys not to really push it. Putting restrictions, I don't think would make a difference.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah, the judging criteria.
It's like if they kind of loosen up, hey, you know what? We don't want this happening, but there's always going to be that one guy that pushes it. I don't think you'll ever get away from that.
No, yeah, I agree.
It's like in football, they could, hey, you know what? You're not, no head hits. All right, now they're chopping at the guy's knees. Now the guy, he might not have head injuries, but he's going to be walking with a cane or in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. There's pros and cons to every restriction you put in there, and there's differences in what people do with those restrictions. Mm-hmm. So what can you really do except, we're just going to award the guy who looks the best in our opinion, and dryness or being totally see-through inside out, mm-hmm. Is 90% now instead of 100% what it used to be.
Yeah. And the truth of the matter is, I know there's a lot of going back and forth, but these guys today, they come in fucking chiseled to the bone. Yeah. They come in. I'm sure you saw the Arnold Classic and how Nick Walker looked. Oh my God. It was it was like,
I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, me too. I just, you see something like that, and it's almost like the, like you said, it's almost like you see the next generation coming, and it just gets more and more extreme.
Right.
There's some people have the opinion that there are more deaths in bodybuilding because the talent pool is so much greater, being that there are so many more athletes with classic and physique, and women's have 4, and now there's the what is it, the other women's class, wellness and fitness, and go down the line, 212. What do you think about that?
If you increase the population on anything, you're just going to increase the statistics. That's just basic math.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I just think there's one common denominator, like I said before, and I think that should be taken a little more serious.
Yeah, it could very well be.
And it's tough to talk about. It's tough to talk about because our country is so split on this.
Oh, tell me about it. It's true.
And I'm in an industry where the general person have similar views. I always try to keep an open mind, and I think it is serious, and probably more serious than the other guy thinks.
Right.
I do think I had COVID in December. I still can't smell or taste. It's been 10 months.
I had it in March. Yeah, I still. Yeah. So,
so this thing wiped out 2 of my major protective senses.
Yeah, right.
Like that. And I'm fighting and struggling to get them back.
Yeah,
especially when that plays a key role in one's survival. Yeah, you smell gas in the house, or you're eating something that's rancid or bad. These are our protective senses, right?
That's a good point. Absolutely, yeah.
Look, you have to, I don't get how people don't see it that way.
That's right.
And it's more of the disease of this thing, and not to get into a whole spiel about it.
Right.
But I think it should be taken a little more serious. But I think that has a huge factor on people's health long-term down the road. It's like people who have, HIV. You know, you could have HIV for years, but it's the AIDS virus. It's the AIDS disease that'll kill you. You
Sure.
know, you could not even test for HIV. You know, for 7 years, and then it hits you, and then AIDS comes in and it wipes you. You know, you start wasting away.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen? A bunch of 19-year-old kids are going to start Googling HIV because they have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
You know,
but we don't know what this thing.
Yeah, you don't know the long-term effects. Absolutely.
We don't know what it's going to do.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But what we do know is that it's an inflammatory disease. We know it's a blood thickening disease. We know it causes organ failure. And in lieu of all these things and facts that we know, and you start to filter in these untimely circumstances and deaths of people in our industry, there is a correlation.
Yeah, it may very well be. We're just going to have to wait and see. Unfortunately, that's how it works. But you know, our hearts go out to the family, and prayers and thoughts go out to George and his family. Again, this is a tragedy, and this is happening way too often. I don't know what the answer is, but it just kind of feel really, really bad. This one was really, I never report on bodybuilders dying, but this one, for some reason.
I haven't even heard it when you mentioned it. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. This one, as soon as I heard it, I was like, no, there's no way. He was only 37. And I never do shows, but I was like, I almost felt obligated, you know?
Right.
Almost felt obligated, but you know, prayers and thoughts go out. And Jay, thank you for joining me and talking about such a great athlete and a great person.
Anytime. I'm glad I could give my opinion and send my condolences to him and his family and his friends.
George Peterson, you will not be forgotten.